If you run a Shopify store, I mean, you know the feeling. It's this very specific, almost physiological sensation that hits right around the first of the month.
Oh, yeah. The reconciliation gut punch.
Exactly. You've been grinding away, right? You're staring at your dashboard, tweaking ad creatives, you're split testing landing pages like crazy.
Right, doing everything you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and you're watching that top line revenue climb. You hear that notification sound on your phone, you know, that little cha-ching.
It hits the dopamine receptors perfectly every single time.
It really does. It feels like momentum, like you're just winning.
Right.
But then you sit down to do your actual end of month reconciliation.
And that's where reality sets in.
Yeah, you pull up your bank balance, you cross-reference your ad spend across Meta and Google, you factor in your payment gateways, and there's just this sudden sinking vacuum in the pit of your stomach.
Because the money just isn't there.
Right. The
Yeah.
actual cash sitting in the account does not even remotely reflect the sheer volume of sales you just pushed through all month.
Yeah, I hear this constantly. It feels like running a marathon on a treadmill that just keeps speeding up.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're exhausted, the dashboard says you ran 20 miles, but you haven't actually moved an inch.
It's an incredibly common scenario, and frankly, it is the quiet killer of independent e-commerce right now.
So why does it happen? I mean, merchants are putting in the work.
Well, you are executing perfectly on the front end, right? Generating demand, dialing in your CRO, getting traffic to check out.
Right.
But the actual reward, the retained capital, it simply isn't materializing. And the reason this is so insidious is that it's largely invisible until you do that final accounting.
Because the Shopify dashboard is just so green and happy all the time.
Exactly. The dashboard is inherently optimistic. It tells you about gross sales.
Yeah.
It tells you you're winning. But the balance sheet is ruthless, and it often tells a completely contradictory story.
Yeah, and that contradiction is exactly what we're dismantling today in this deep dive.
It's a structural teardown, really.
It is. Our mission today is to shift how you think about your product catalog entirely. We need to move away from this obsession with top-line revenue and quick sales.
Yeah, because revenue is vanity, margin is sanity.
Exactly. We need to zero in on long-term profit protection. Because if you are just optimizing for conversion volume without a mechanism to protect what you actually keep, well, you aren't building a business.
No, you're just facilitating transactions for your suppliers and ad platforms at that point.
Right. Which brings me to the absolute core philosophy for our discussion today. It's a mantra, and we are going to return to it multiple times.
It's so important to internalize this one.
Yeah, it requires a fundamental rewiring of merchant psychology. So, ready. Here it is. I don't sell at a price. I sell at a margin. The price is just whatever keeps the margin.
That framing is essential. I mean, if we contextualize this within the broader evolution of e-commerce over, say, the last 5 to 8 years,
Things have changed a lot.
drastically. This shift isn't just a best practice anymore. It's a survival imperative. Like 5 years ago, customer acquisition costs were low enough that you could afford to be sloppy with your margins.
Right, because Facebook ads were basically free compared to today.
Exactly. You could absorb inefficiencies because the sheer volume of cheap traffic just papered over the cracks in your business model.
Yeah.
But today, modern e-commerce is a highly volatile, low-tolerance environment.
So true. Supply chain costs fluctuate constantly.
Yeah, shipping rates swing wildly based on fuel surcharges and carrier capacity. Ad costs are notoriously unpredictable.
Uh-huh.
So if you are anchored to a static selling price on your storefront, you are essentially acting as the shock absorber for the entire global supply chain.
Wow. Acting as the shock absorber, that's a brutal way to look at it, but it's completely accurate.
When costs fluctuate and your retail price doesn't, your margin's the only thing left to compress.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's get into the actual mechanics of how this happens to merchants who are, genuinely trying to run a tight ship but are still bleeding cash.
We should look at the most common, yet almost completely invisible way of profit hemorrhages.
Right. The silent profit killer. We're calling this the 12% surprise.
This gets to the architectural flaw in how most merchants set up their stores. When we analyze the ecosystem of Shopify apps, specifically the legacy pricing and discount apps, there is a fundamental blind spot.
What's the blank spot?
The vast majority of these tools are designed to manipulate your products based exclusively on the selling price.
So they only look at what the customer sees on the site.
Exactly. They look at what the end consumer pays. They operate completely detached from the underlying foundation of that transaction, which is what it costs you to acquire, pack, and ship that good.
And that creates a massive vulnerability. Let's Let's map out a specific scenario for everyone.
Sure, let's walk through it.
Okay, so you have a flagship product. It's a proven winner. It's converting at 3%. Your ads are totally dialed in.
Sounds great so far.
Right. But then somewhere halfway across the globe, or maybe just a few states over, your supplier updates their pricing.
And they rarely send a polite email announcing it, by the way.
Exactly. Often, it's just a silent update to an API feed, right? Just the invisible digital pipe connecting their inventory software to your store. Or maybe an updated CSV file sitting in a shared Dropbox.
Yep. And they bump their wholesale cost by 12%.
Raw materials went up, labor went up. Doesn't matter. Your costs just increased.
But here's the kicker. Because your legacy pricing app only looks at the front-end retail price.
Absolutely nothing on your storefront changes.
Nothing.
So let's run the actual math on that because the compound effect is staggering.
Yeah, let's do the math. Say you sell a product for $50 retail. Your baseline cost from the supplier has historically been $20.
Okay, so that leaves me with a $30 gross margin.
Right. And out of that $30, you have to pay your meta ad costs to acquire the customer. You have to pay Stripe or Shopify payments. And hopefully there's some net profit left over for you.
Right, the actual money I keep.
But now that silent update hits the API feed. The supplier's cost goes up 12%.
Hold on, let me do the math. So a 12% increase on a $20 cost. That bumps your cost to $22.40.
Correct.
I mean, I'm losing $2.40. I'll play devil's advocate here. In the grand scheme of a $50 sale, losing $2 doesn't sound like a catastrophic business-ending event.
On a single transaction, it isn't. But you don't run an e-commerce store to make one transaction, do you?
Fair point.
Multiply that by 1,000 units a month. You haven't just lost $2,400 of vague revenue. You have surrendered $2,400 of pure bottom line net profit.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when you put it like that, it hurts.
And here is where the mechanics get truly vicious. Your return on ad spend, your ROAS, is going to look exactly the same in your Meta Ads Manager.
Because I'm spending the exact same amount to acquire the customer, and they're still paying $50.
Exactly. So your marketing agency is telling you everything is great, high fives all around, but the slice of the pie that belongs to you just got significantly thinner.
And because the top line number hasn't moved, the dashboard still looks green.
Right. Nobody notices the leak until the end of month reconciliation.
It's basically like having a leaky pipe behind drywall. You don't know it's happening until the ceiling collapses.
That's a perfect analogy.
But I want to push back on this a little bit, or at least explore the merchant psychology here.
Yeah.
If I'm a smart operator, right? If I'm checking my metrics daily, why am I blind to this? Why does it take the monthly accounting to figure out I'm bleeding out $2.40 a unit? Shouldn't I be catching this in real time?
It's not a failure of intelligence on a merchant's part. It's a failure of tooling combined with the realities of scale.
What do you mean by the realities of scale?
Well, if you are a boutique operation managing 10 products that you manufacture yourself in your garage, yes, you know your costs down to the penny every single day.
Right.
But that is not the reality for most dropshippers or merchants managing large imported catalogs. They're dealing with hundreds, sometimes thousands of unique SKUs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Pulling from multiple suppliers, complex pricing matrices.
Exactly. The sheer volume of data ingestion is overwhelming. When a supplier's automated feed updates pricing across 400 items at 2 a.m., it just gets buried in the noise of daily operations.
So merchants just don't have the bandwidth to monitor it.
Right. Now, merchants recognize the danger of this scale, and they do try to implement defenses.
But they usually try to fix it with a blunt instrument, right?
Yes, which leads perfectly into the next massive trap.
Defense mechanism that almost every merchant tries when they start scaling, and one they almost always regret.
Oh, the regret is palpable.
We're talking about the flat markup fallacy, or what we can call the 3,000 product problem.
Precisely. Because managing the individual cost-to-margin ratio of 3,000 unique physical products manually is mathematically impossible for a lean team without intelligent automation.
Let's set the scene for how a merchant usually falls into this trap. So you realize you need a larger catalog to increase your average order value.
Right, you want customers adding complementary items to their cart.
Exactly. So you go into your supplier network, you curate this massive list, and you import 3,000 products into your Shopify store.
And now you're staring at a completely blank slate of retail prices.
Yeah, and you physically do not have the time to sit there, research the market rate, and individually price 3,000 unique items.
It would take months.
So what do? You reach for the path of least resistance, you highlight all 3,000 products in your bulk editor, and you apply a flat algorithmic markup.
The dreaded blanket percentage.
Right. You just say, take whatever the supplier cost is and mark it up by 30% across the board. Bam. Hit save.
And you feel great because you just priced your whole store in 4 seconds.
Yeah, but you just built a house of cards.
You absolutely did. And it all comes down to the fundamental physical reality of moving goods through space.
Expand on that.
Well, with 3,000 different items, you are not selling clones of the exact same object. You are selling a highly diverse matrix of variables. And the most punishing variable is usually shipping, specifically dimensional weight.
Oh, right, dimensional weight. For anyone who hasn't been burned by this yet, carriers like UPS, FedEx, or USPS don't just charge you based on how heavy a box is.
No, they charge you based on the physical space it takes up in the back of the delivery truck.
Right, so a massive box full of pillows might only weigh 2 pounds, but it takes up the space of a mini fridge, so they charge you as if it weighs 40 pounds.
Exactly, and within a catalog of 3,000 items, supplier baseline costs and dimensional weights differ wildly.
So applying a flat 30% markup to everything.
It means you aren't actually executing a pricing strategy.
Right.
You are effectively rolling the dice on your margin, product by product.
You're just literally guessing.
Yes. You are assuming that a flat 30% buffer is some sort of magic armor that will protect your profitability regardless of the physical characteristics or baseline cost of the item. It's an illusion of control.
Okay, let's map this out, because the flat markup sounds so logical until you actually look at the inventory.
Right.
Imagine applying that flat 30% rule to a catalog. It's like trying to tailor a suit for 3,000 different people by just taking a medium pattern and adding exactly 2 inches to the waist and the sleeves for everyone.
That's a great way to put it.
A few people will fit perfectly, but most people are either going to rip the seams or drown in the fabric. You aren't actually fitting anyone, you're just applying a math rule to a physical problem.
Let's look at 2 specific products in that massive catalog to see how this breaks down in reality.
Okay, I've got 2 examples. Product A is a giant, heavy marble cutting board. Product B is a tiny, high-end, lightweight titanium camping widget.
That is the perfect contrast. Let's trace the math on both, starting with the marble cutting board.
Okay, lay it on me.
Let's say the baseline supplier cost for the cutting board is $10.
Got it. $10.
You run your bulk editor with a 30% markup. 30% of $10 is $3. So your system sets the retail price at $13.
Okay, so I have $3 of gross profit to play with.
Correct. But now you have to actually fulfill the order. You have to pack a heavy, dense slab of marble into a box with enough bubble wrap so it doesn't shatter and ship it across the country.
Oh, no.
Yeah. That shipping cost, factoring in the sheer weight, might easily be $15.
But I only have $3 of margin built into the price.
Exactly. You are instantly underwater by $12 on every single sale because your flat markup didn't account for the physical reality of the item and the low baseline cost.
I am literally paying my customers to take the marble cutting board off my hands.
It's an absolute nightmare scenario. You see the product selling well, you scale your ad spend on it, and you bankrupt yourself in a week.
That is terrifying. Okay, so that's the heavy item. What happens with the titanium widget?
With the titanium widget, the physical dynamics are totally inverted. The supplier cost is high, say, $50.
Okay.
You apply your flat 30% markup. 30% of $50 is $15. So your retail price is now set at $65.
Oh, makes sense.
It's tiny, it weighs 2 ounces, it costs almost nothing to ship. It should be a highly profitable, easy to fulfill item. But there's a different problem here.
Which is?
What if the competitive market rate for that specific widget is $55?
Because I blindly slapped a 30% markup on a high-cost item, I pushed my retail price to $65.
Exactly. You completely priced yourself out of the market.
Wow. So a flat markup is a double-edged sword that cuts you both ways.
It guarantees that you will lose money on your heavy, low-cost items because the margin isn't wide enough. And it guarantees you will lose sales volume on your light, high-cost items because you artificially inflated the price beyond what the market will bear.
The heavy items bleed your cash, and the light items gather digital dust in your warehouse. So we have a massive structural problem here. Manually pricing 3,000 items is impossible for a small team, but applying a flat algorithmic markup is basically financial sabotage.
It's a tough spot to be in.
So what does this all mean? How do we resolve this? How do we manage thousands of products with fluctuating costs without guessing?
Well, the irony of this entire problem is that the foundational data required to solve it has been sitting inside your Shopify dashboard since the day you opened your store.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it is a completely free native feature.
Oh, this is the untapped gold mine we talked about. We are talking about a specific field in the Shopify admin panel that is criminally underutilized by merchants.
It really is.
Listeners, if you go into any product or variant in your store right now and scroll down to the pricing section, right beneath where you type in your retail price and your compare it heart, there is a small, unassuming text box labeled cost per item.
It is the most important data field in your entire architecture.
Really? More important than the selling price?
Absolutely. Because when you input a number into that field, Shopify instantly calculates your profit margin and profit amount based on the retail price you've set above it.
So it gives you the absolute truth of your unit economics right there on the screen.
Right. Yet, having talked to hundreds of merchants, I can tell you that almost nobody utilizes this field at scale.
Yeah, they might fill it out on day one when they launch a product, but they never touch it again.
And that's a huge mistake. The mechanics of the cost per item field are incredibly powerful because it is variant specific.
What does that mean in practice?
It allows you to map the granular reality of your supply chain directly into Shopify's database. If you sell a t-shirt, the supplier might charge you $3 for the size small and red. But because the size XXL and black requires more fabric and a different dye process, they charge you $4.50.
Right, different sizes, different costs.
You can input those distinct costs into the respective variant fields. This field is the bedrock of moving from Vanity Metrics gross revenue to Sanity Metrics net margin.
It holds the absolute truth of your business costs.
Exactly. So why do you think it remains so neglected?
Well, I'm going to push back on the idea that merchants are just ignoring it because they're lazy or don't understand its value.
Oh, I don't think they're lazy at all.
Right, because if you tell a merchant, hey, keeping this field updated will save you thousands of dollars, they will absolutely want to do it. I'd stay up until 3 a.m. updating fields if I had to.
So what's the barrier?
The issue isn't a lack of desire. The issue is data decay. Without automation, keeping that cost per item field accurate across thousands of variants is a Sisyphean task.
Oh, completely.
Think about it. Let's say my supplier emails me a new spreadsheet with pricing updates for 500 items. The process of manually opening 500 individual Shopify product pages, clicking into the variants, deleting the old cost, typing in the new cost, hitting save,
It's brutal.
and then pulling out a physical calculator to see if my retail price now needs to change to protect my margin. It's a completely unscalable operational bottleneck.
By the time you finish updating the 500th item, the cost on the first item has probably changed again.
Exactly. It's not just boring administrative work. It's practically impossible to keep synchronized manually.
You are entirely correct. The friction of manual data entry at scale is the barrier. When your daily operations involve fighting fires, managing customer service, optimizing ad spend,
Updating a static data field naturally falls to the absolute bottom of the priority matrix.
it feels like housekeeping, not revenue generation. And if you are using legacy apps that only look at the retail price anyway, then updating the cost per item field is just writing a digital sticky note to yourself. It doesn't actually do anything.
Exactly. It's just static data sitting there.
But this is where the paradigm shift occurs.
Okay, tee this up for us.
If you change the architecture of your operations so that your pricing software actually reads from that cost per item field and reacts to it automatically, everything changes.
The field transforms from a tedious administrative chore into the engine block of your profit protection strategy. And that leads us to the operational pivot. We are talking about moving from static pricing to dynamic margin pricing.
Yes.
We are moving away from the question, what should the price be? And moving toward the question, what margin do I need to hold?
This is the strategic leap that separates amateur operations from institutional e-commerce.
Break that down for me.
The traditional static way of pricing involves looking at the market, looking at competitors, and dictating a top-down command. Make the price $19.99.
Right.
That command assumes that the underlying costs of goods, fulfillment, and acquisition are frozen in time.
Which they never are.
Never. Dynamic margin pricing completely inverts the architecture. Instead of a top-down dictate, the system calculates from the bottom up.
Bottom up, okay.
It reads the actual variant cost from that native cost per item field, and it calculates upward to dynamically establish the retail price required to meet your business goals.
I'm going to repeat our core philosophy again because this is where it fully clicks into place for the listener.
Go for it.
Remember, I don't sell at a price. I sell at a margin. The price is just whatever keeps the margin.
Yes. If you internalize that and build your software stack around it, you insulate your business from supply chain chaos.
It makes so much sense.
Think about the psychological relief this provides to a business owner. Pricing physical products is traditionally one of the most emotionally fraught, anxiety-inducing tasks in retail.
Oh, it really is. You're constantly second-guessing your position in the market. Are we priced too high? Are we losing conversion rate?
Did we price too low and leave money on the table? Did the supplier just eat our entire profit margin for Q4?
It keeps you up at night.
But when you shift to algorithmic margin-based pricing, it entirely removes the emotion from the equation.
How so?
You look at your blended customer acquisition costs, your operating overhead, and your target profit, and you decide that to run a healthy, sustainable business, you must maintain a 40% gross margin on your catalog.
Okay, so I pick my number, 40%.
You set that rule in the software. From that moment on, the retail price on the storefront is no longer a strategic headache. It is simply a mathematical output of your required margin.
So if the supplier cost goes up, the retail price automatically pushes up to defend that 40%.
Exactly. And if the supplier cost drops because of a bulk discount, your retail price can automatically adjust downward, making you highly competitive in the market while still mathematically guaranteeing your 40%.
It's turning an art into a hard science.
It really is.
But I want to play devil's advocate here.
I expected you would.
For the merchants listening who have been burned by software before, and there are a lot of us, here's where it gets really interesting but also a little scary.
Okay, what's the fear?
If I hand over the steering wheel to an algorithm, right, and I let software dynamically set my storefront prices based on a margin goal, what stops it from doing something crazy?
Give me an example.
What if there is a glitch in the supplier's API feed, and it accidentally pushes a data point saying, a standard ceramic coffee mug now costs $1,000 wholesale?
Ah, a data error.
Yeah. Will my store suddenly auto-publish a retail price of $1,500 for a coffee mug just to protect my 40% margin? I'm giving an algorithm control over the public face of my brand. How do I build an immune system against bad data?
That is the most critical question you can ask when implementing automation. Automation without structural protection is a recipe for a catastrophic failure.
Exactly. I don't want a rogue robot running my store.
You cannot simply flip a switch on dynamic margin pricing and walk away. You need architectural integrity.
Yeah.
And that brings us to Section 5, essential guardrails.
Guardrails.
These are the mandatory non-negotiable safety nets that absolutely must be hard-coded into the system to protect the automation from itself and to protect your brand equity.
And I love this concept. It's like going bowling with the bumpers up.
Bumpers up.
Yeah, like when you go bowling with little kids, they inflate those tubes in the gutters. The kid can close their eyes, hurl the ball down the lane with absolutely zero technique, and it just aggressively bounces off the bumpers all the way down.
Right.
You are mathematically guaranteed not to throw a gutter ball. It might not be a graceful strike, but it's going to hit pins. We need bumpers for our algorithmic pricing.
That is a perfect analogy. Let's break down the 4 specific bumpers. The guardrails necessary for margin pricing to function safely in a live e-commerce environment.
Okay, let's do it. Guardrail number 1, price floor prevention. How does it work?
Price floor prevention is primarily about brand safety, market positioning, and sometimes legal compliance.
Okay.
While dynamic margin pricing generally pushes prices up to defend profit when costs rise, what happens when costs drop?
Let me guess. If a supplier runs a massive temporary clearance event, or an API glitch pushes a wholesale cost of 10 cents for a premium item.
If your algorithm is purely blindly chasing a percentage margin, it will aggressively drop your retail price to match.
Which sounds amazing for conversion rates, right? Customers love a massive discount.
In a vacuum, yes. But in the context of building a brand, dropping your price too low can severely damage your perceived value.
Oh, that's true. If I've spent 3 years positioning my store as a premium, high-end lifestyle brand,
and suddenly your pricing algorithm drops your flagship hero product to bargain bin prices because the wholesale cost temporarily dipped.
my customer base will lose trust. They'll assume the manufacturing quality has plummeted, or that the business is going bankrupt and liquidating inventory.
Furthermore, if you are selling name brand goods, you often have MAP agreements, minimum advertised price policies dictated by the manufacturer.
Oh, yeah. If your algorithm drops the price below MAP, you lose your vendor account instantly.
Exactly.
Hmm.
A price floor is a hard rule that ensures no matter what the margin math dictates, a product's retail price never drops below a predetermined, brand-safe, or legally compliant threshold.
So it tells the algorithm, calculate the price based on margin, but absolutely never publish a price below $25 under any circumstances.
Exactly. You are protecting the floor.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Protect the brand equity, don't violate MAP agreements. Bumper number 1 is locked in. But what about the opposite scenario?
What do you mean?
What if I want to drop prices on purpose? Let's say it's Q4, Black Friday is coming up. I want to offer aggressive discounts to acquire customers. If I run a store-wide 20% off sale, doesn't that override the margin protection and put me in the red anyway?
And that leads directly to guardrail number 2, which is arguably the most critical for cash flow. Minimum profit protection.
Okay, the absolute hard stop.
This is the guardrail that stops the bleeding. Minimum profit protection operates independently of your percentage-based margin goals. It's a flat, unyielding fiat rule.
Fiat rule meaning a specific dollar amount.
Yes. You tell the system, I must retain at least $10 of pure fiat profit on every single transaction, regardless of the percentage margin.
Why is this so vital?
Because of exactly what you just described. Discount stacking and external marketing pressures. During Black Friday, you might be running a 20% off site-wide code, but a customer might also trigger a free shipping over $50 threshold.
And suddenly, my margins are compressing from multiple angles.
The minimum profit protection acts as the ultimate fail-safe check. Before the software allows any final discounted price to be executed at checkout, it runs a final calculation.
And if the math doesn't work out?
If the combination of the baseline supplier cost, your margin rules, and the active discount codes means your actual retained profit would drop to, say, $9.99, the guardrail triggers.
Wow. What does it do?
It dynamically blocks the price from dropping that low, or it invalidates the discount stacking. No matter what chaotic combination of promo codes a customer finds on a coupon site, the system mathematically defends a baseline profit floor. You never, ever sell at a loss.
That right there is the cure for the end-of-month reconciliation anxiety. Knowing that you have a structural mechanism preventing negative transactions changes how aggressively you can market.
You can offer discounts, knowing the floor will catch you.
Okay, bumper number 2 is up. Let's talk about the third guardrail, which is a bit more technical but completely necessary for real-world operations.
The fallback for variance with no cost.
Right. Why do we need this?
This is a data integrity safety net. We just spend a lot of time emphasizing how crucial the Shopify cost per item field is. But we have to be realistic about human error and software glitches.
Things break.
Exactly. Let's say you are rushing to import a new product line for a weekend promo launch. You ingest the CSV file, but the file was formatted incorrectly, and it failed to populate the cost per item field for 3 specific color variants.
So the field is blank.
In a database, it reads as a null value, or essentially 0.
And if the field is 0, and the algorithm tries to calculate a 40% margin on a baseline cost of 0?
Mathematically, a 40% markup on a cost of 0 is still 0.
Oh my God.
A poorly designed, naive pricing system would read that null value, calculate the markup, and instantly set your storefront retail price to $0.
Essentially giving away my physical inventory for free until I notice.
Exactly. So the fallback rule is the system recognizing that a blank field does not mean the item is free. It means there is missing data.
So it freezes.
Yes. You establish a rule that dictates if a variant lacks cost per item data, immediately suspend dynamic margin pricing for that specific SKU. Fall back to the original static price or a default placeholder price and flag it in the dashboard for manual human review.
It actively prevents the automation from making catastrophic business decisions based on incomplete data sets.
It's the software having the intelligence to say, I don't have enough data to make a mathematically sound decision, so I am going to freeze and ask for help.
That is brilliant. Okay, so we've got price floor prevention, minimum profit protection, and the fallback for missing data.
Which brings us to the fourth and final mandatory guardrail. This is the engine of the whole operation.
Auto price sync or auto resync?
If guardrails 1 through 3 are about disaster prevention, guardrail 4 is about active, real-time defense. Auto price sync is what makes the entire architecture living and breathing.
How fast are we talking?
Instantaneous. It means the pricing engine is constantly listening to your Shopify database. The exact millisecond a supplier cost changes in that cost per item field. Whether you updated it via bulk, CSV upload, or an automated API feed, pushed the new data the system triggers.
And it recalculates.
Instantly. It recalculates the retail price based on your margin rules and your guardrails, and pushes the new protected price to your live storefront immediately.
Let's bring this full circle back to the very first scenario we discussed today, the 12% surprise.
The silent margin killer.
Right. The supplier quietly raises the wholesale cost of that $50 item by $2.40 on a random Tuesday.
With an auto price sync architecture engaged, you don't need to read the supplier's email. You don't need to check a spreadsheet.
Because the software handles it.
The supplier's data feed updates the cost per item field in your Shopify backend. The software instantly registers that the new baseline cost is $22.40.
And it does the math.
It calculates that to defend your required 40% margin, the retail price needs to shift to $53. Within seconds of the supplier updating their cost, your storefront price updates to $53.
You didn't touch your keyboard, you didn't run a manual calculation, and most importantly, you didn't surrender a single cent of your profit margin.
The system automatically defended your unit economics while you were sleeping, or building ad campaigns, or focusing on high-leverage growth tasks.
Okay, so with those 4 bumpers, firmly up price floor, minimum profit, no cost fallback, and auto resync, the obvious question is, how do we actually implement this?
Because, as we established earlier, the vast majority of apps in the Shopify ecosystem just don't function this way.
Right. If you search pricing or discounts on the App Store, you get hundreds of results.
But if you synthesize the current market landscape, almost all legacy tools are built on a static architecture. They're designed to execute a rigid command. Set this collection's price to X.
They're essentially just glorified bulk editors.
Exactly. They might allow you to schedule a weekend sale or bulk discount a specific brand, but they are fundamentally blind to the underlying cost of goods. They are tools for setting a price. They are not systems designed to protect a business.
And this brings us to a specific tool highlighted in the research for this deep dive, Discount Prime.
Yes.
And I want to be incredibly clear about the tone here for our listeners because our objective is analyzing operational architecture, not delivering a software sales pitch.
Absolutely. Looking objectively at the architecture of a tool like Discount Prime, its core differentiation lies in that exact paradigm shift we've been discussing.
The shift from price to margin.
It is not engineered to merely set a price. It is fundamentally designed to hold a margin. It utilizes the native cost per item field, it executes the dynamic bottom-up calculation, and it integrates the 4 essential guardrails to ensure structural safety.
It operates as an algorithmic margin defense system rather than a blunt pricing mechanism.
Exactly.
I want to explicitly frame the value proposition here because in the e-commerce space, everyone is constantly selling the dream, right?
Oh, install this app and double your conversion rate overnight fantasy.
Yes. Everyone promises you'll buy a Lamborghini next week. The honest, pragmatic value of shifting to a margin defense system is much more grounded. It isn't a magical growth hack. It will not magically make you a millionaire tomorrow.
No, it won't.
The honest value of holding a margin is simply to stop losing the money you have already rightfully earned.
Well said.
It is about sealing the leaks in the hull of your ship. If you successfully sold 100 items today, you earned a specific amount of profit based on your business model and ad spend.
You did the work.
Right. The true value of this architecture is ensuring that external, uncontrollable forces like unexpected supplier hikes or carrier shipping changes don't reach into your bank account and steal the profit you already worked exhaustively to generate. It is a defensive maneuver, not an offensive one.
That is a crucial distinction. It is about creating operational stability and predictable cash flow in a highly unpredictable market.
Yeah.
But this raises an important strategic question, and to remain entirely objective, we have to address it. Is this level of automated dynamic margin protection necessary for every single Shopify merchant?
Ah, the caveat. And it's an important one. We are in section 7 of our deep dive. Who should not turn this kind of automation on?
Right.
Because frankly, technology should only be implemented to solve a specific friction point. It should not be used to create unnecessary complexity. If you don't have the illness, don't take the medicine.
Exactly. Based on operational models, there are 2 distinct profiles of merchants who should actively avoid dynamic automation and stick to manual or static pricing.
Okay, who's the first profile?
The first profile encompasses merchants with highly stable, predictable costs.
Like who?
If you are a vertically integrated brand, meaning you manufacture your own goods in your own facility, or if you operate with ironclad, locked-in supplier contracts where your raw material and wholesale costs are negotiated and fixed for the entire fiscal year.
Got it. So you don't need real-time auto price sync.
You really don't. Your baseline is stable. The scenario of a 12% surprise on a Tuesday simply does not apply to your supply chain.
Because you control it.
Exactly. You can safely manage your pricing strategy manually during your quarterly or annual financial review periods.
Right. If your costs are basically set in stone by a contract, having an algorithmic app checking your margins every 5 seconds is complete overkill. It's adding a layer of software complexity and potential points of failure that you simply don't need.
Precisely.
What is the second profile of merchant who should skip this?
The second profile relates entirely to the scale and density of the product catalog. Merchants selling a highly curated, very small list of products.
Like how small?
Say 5 to 15 core hero SKUs. If you operate a tight, bespoke catalog, you possess an intimate, granular understanding of every single metric associated with those specific products.
You know them like the back of your hand.
Exactly. You know the exact shipping weight, the custom packaging cost, and the exact margin down to the penny without having to look at a spreadsheet.
So for a catalog of that size, a simple, well-organized Excel sheet or Google Doc is a perfectly adequate management tool.
Yes, you don't suffer from the 3,000 product problem. Therefore, you don't require an algorithmic solution. If a supplier cost does change on one of your 10 items, you can manually calculate and adjust the storefront price in about 3 minutes.
I really appreciate highlighting that nuance. It is incredibly easy in the Shopify and broader e-commerce ecosystem to get swept up in the constant hype cycle of new SaaS tools.
Everyone wants the shiny new object.
Exactly. And you start to believe that you need to automate every single micro interaction of your business. But true operational optimization is knowing what to automate and when.
It ultimately comes down to matching the complexity of your software solutions to the complexity of your supply chain operations.
Absolutely. If you have stable contracted costs or a tiny, highly curated catalog, keep your operations lean and simple. But if you are managing hundreds or thousands of imported SKUs, if you are dropshipping, and your supply chain costs are constantly fluctuating, trying to manage that volatility with a static spreadsheet is a guaranteed recipe for bleeding cash.
You're just asking for trouble.
Okay, as we begin to pull all the threads together and wrap up this deep dive, let's recap the journey for you, the listener.
It's been a lot of ground covered.
We started by identifying that brutal, sinking feeling at the end of the month, pushing massive sales volume but seeing no retained cash in the bank account.
The reconciliation gut punch.
We unpacked the mechanics of the silent killer. The invisible 12% supplier hike that quietly devours your net profit because your legacy pricing app keeps your storefront price frozen.
And nobody notices until it's too late.
Then we exposed the severe mathematical dangers of the flat markup fallacy and why slapping a rigid 30% across thousands of physically diverse products guarantees you will lose money fulfilling heavy items and price yourself out of the market on light items.
From there, we explored the structural solution hiding in plain sight.
Shopify's native, free, cost-per-item database field.
We discussed how unlocking its true power requires an operational pivot shifting from static, top-down pricing to dynamic, bottom-up margin pricing.
Letting the automation constantly read that baseline data to calculate upward and defend your unit economics.
But we crucially emphasize that handing over the steering wheel to an algorithm requires those non-negotiable guardrails.
Right. Price floors to protect brand equity, minimum profit guarantees to survive discount stacking, zero-cost fallbacks to prevent data errors from giving away inventory.
And real-time syncing to act as an algorithmic immune system against supply chain volatility.
It is entirely about shifting your tech stack from tools that merely set a price to systems architected to hold a margin. It's about plugging the unseen leaks in your business so you finally stop losing the money you've already earned.
That's the core of it.
And I am going to repeat our core message one last time because I want this to become your operational baseline. I want this echoing in your head the next time you log into your Shopify admin panel.
Let's hear it.
I don't sell at a price. I sell at a margin. The price is just whatever keeps the margin.
That philosophy is the absolute bedrock of a resilient, institutional-grade e-commerce operation.
And as we close out, I want to introduce one final thought that we haven't even touched on yet. But it makes the shift to margin pricing even more urgent for the future.
What's that?
We've spent this entire time talking about defending your margins against suppliers raising costs, but the next wave of margin erosion isn't coming from suppliers, it's coming from the buyers.
You're talking about AI-driven consumer shopping agents.
Exactly. We are rapidly approaching a reality where consumers won't just browse your store manually. They will deploy AI agents to scrape the internet in milliseconds, auto-haggle, and exploit any static pricing inefficiencies they find across platforms.
Oh, yeah.
If your pricing architecture is static and rigid, you won't just be squeezed by your supply chain, you will be systematically bled dry by AI buying bots, optimizing for the absolute lowest possible checkout price.
Algorithmic margin-based pricing isn't just about protecting yourself from an API feed update anymore. It is about building a dynamic immune system to survive an AI-driven consumer market.
Exactly.
That is a phenomenal point. The market is only going to get faster and more automated, which means your internal systems must be faster and more automated just to maintain parity.
It's an arms race.
It really is.
Yeah.
So to leave you with a concrete diagnostic test for the resilience of your own operation right now, I want you to go look at your dashboard today and answer this one specific question.
Okay, what's the question?
Ask yourself, if every supplier cost went up 10% tonight, what in my store would actually change the price?
If the honest answer to that question is nothing, you have a massively leaky pipe behind the drywall. Go fix it. Stop being the shock absorber for the supply chain. Protect your profits. Keep diving deep into your business metrics, and we will catch you on the next one.